Firstly, thank you everyone for coming along. Like Victor, I'm suffering a bit of man flu, so be nice to me this afternoon. Tanil and I work for one of the cooler departments in government, that is the Department of State Development, or DSD for short. The purpose of DSD is to lead the delivery of economic development outcomes for Queensland. You may have heard of projects such as the Commonwealth Games Village, the Queen's Wharf Casino, Townsville Stadium, which thankfully hasn't been built yet, so it's not going to get knocked over. These are all part of what DSD does. However, we have an image problem, and it's a big one. More and more, we're using digital media to communicate to our stakeholders and the public. But since the closure of the state government image library, we have not had a way of managing thousands of digital images other than to resort to using the G drive. This problem has grown over time to where it's becoming an issue for us. This manually intensive and self-limiting approach leads to digital assets that are underutilised or worse, simply forgotten. To make the situation worse, we're increasingly having to store more than simple image files with vectors, videos, 3D images, drone captures, and soon enough we'll be having to store holograms. This is all creating a problem for us that just grows over time, and I'll turn to Neil now to give you some examples of that.
So obviously Ben mentioned a few of the major projects that we're working on, like Queen's Wharf and North Queensland Stadium. We've also got all the Comms Games venues and village, and a host of regional projects that are just growing and building. We've got Building Our Regions, the legacy from royalties for the regions. So a lot of these are picture-intensive projects. They're staged, so ensuring accuracy and data control as far as sun-setting images, all that kind of management is, at the moment, is very manual and labour-intensive. So we're talking at the moment, I mean, we're looking at providing whoever we work with, we're looking at providing a data set that's manageable for this particular exercise. As far as images go, we're talking a few thousand videos. We'd probably supply a few hours worth. But really it's something that needs to grow, be scalable and grow, because we're looking at design files of 370 gigabytes. So that's quite huge. So yeah, it will definitely grow, and of course there's interest across government for this project as well. Ben mentioned that the Queensland Government Image Library was decommissioned. That's left a massive hole for a lot of agencies. So we've got interest from DPC, Department of Premier and Cabinet, Education and Training, Health, Queensland Fire and Emergency Services. So yeah, it's definitely got the potential to grow across Queensland Government.
And I think some of the problems we've heard today could be quite well helped by a solution that we're talking about here. Tanil covered off most of the points that I wanted to close with, other than one of the unique requirements that we have that's different to something you can buy off the shelf is our security requirements. Some of the images we don't want released out into the public, and more so sometimes we want to control their use within the department. It's something that we haven't been able to find out there in the marketplace, is that unique requirement, and the fact that we need the images, if they're stored in the cloud, to be stored within Australia for similar reasons. So that creates a bit of a problem with it, for us, that we haven't been able to find out there in the marketplace, and we're hoping someone in this room can help us come up with a solution for that. Thank you.
Thanks guys, questions? So we're going through a bit of an information management journey here, from 3D models to digital images to patient data. So questions from the audience?
Thank you. Alina Rathbone from Inside Informatics. Are there any particular standards that you have to adhere to for any of this data?
Not at this stage. Most common formats are what our images are stored in, so as long as it complies with your common formats of images and and the other files that we spoke of, that's the only restriction we have.
The only other thing I'd say is probably, are you talking about maybe image consent or storing around that? Or?
Some organisations like museums, for example, have got particular standards that you have to adhere to for their data, so I didn't know whether there was anything that specifically that you had, but
Okay.
it sounds like you don't. So
I mean, as far as images go, we keep maximum resolution on all images, videos, you know, HD quality. So it's a lot of, I guess, data. Yeah.
Any other questions? So I think, Tanelia, you mentioned it, but just again, the volume. So you said thousands of digital images, is that correct? And
Yeah, look, we've just undertook a massive regional photo shoot project. So we ended up with a few thousand images out of that, and so they're all current and ready to go. At the moment, they're being manually handled, but yeah, we're talking. We'd probably sort of start with a data set of about 2,000 and a few hours, probably 2 or 3 hours of video capture for this particular project. I guess that's where we want to be able to start with this product and then be able to grow from there by storing things like our design files, which, as I mentioned, that's quite a large amount. You know, talking 180,000 files for that, but that wouldn't be part of this project. But I think what I'm trying to build is this product needs to be able to grow into more than a small data capture storage facility.
so it needs to scale.
Hi, it's Peter from Red Eye. In what format do the images need to be available in the system?
Generally, we keep them as JPEGs. Generally,
So the output would be a JPEG?
yeah. We work obviously within, you know, Illustrator and Photoshop, etc. Just the normal design. So yeah, JPEGs are fine.
Sure, thanks.
I might just add to that, our department's really pushing into the mobility space, so should the solution be able to support end users being able to access it, it needs to be able to support that in terms of format, so being able to be accessed from their iPads out in the field.
Okay, thanks Ben, thanks Neil.